It is a brisk morning in Washington, D.C. A lot of leaves. I do enjoy the fall very much. And I'm in I think this is a pretty expensive neighborhood here in Washington, D.C. This is a part of D.C. I've never been to before. Is this Hunter Biden? Driving 172 miles an hour on crack. But yeah, this is, I think, an expensive neighborhood. I don't really know Washington, D.C. well at all. I mean, we're still in the city, but this is very suburby to me. And I'm pretty sure this is an expensive neighborhood. It looks like you've got a lot of covered cars and stuff, Mercedes, and people are, there's a lot of these homes are under construction. I guess these must be historical because I'm in this neighborhood today to visit Anton Dilger's home. And if you don't know who Anton Dilger is, this video will explain it. It's important before I begin, though, to remind everybody that nobody should ever, visit anyone or contact anyone, or, nobody should take any action based on anything that I say or do, apart from becoming a sponsor of Crowdsource the Truth on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com. and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. There are a lot of nice homes in this neighborhood, for sure. I'm not trying to disparage Washington, D.C. or anything like that, but it's kind of a Detroit vibe. On the way over here, there were a lot of these, I don't know, to me, very depressing looking, just sort of cube red brick buildings. These homes are much nicer than that, but Anton Dilger is a guy that I never heard of before about literally almost to the day 1 year ago. Everybody knows that John Cullen has been doing a lot of research into COVID-19 and influenza. Some of the stuff that he's raised has stirred controversy, but once again, I think he's on track. So he had this revelation, and I do believe it's very well reasoned and researched, and I think correct. Now, let's see. Let me think. Can I talk about all of this without getting dinged on YouTube? Anyway, John had determined, we could talk about it. He found documents, one from September 2019, about the modernization of the influenza vaccine. We were looking at Fauci at some kind of conference, talking about wanting to make mRNA universal influenza vaccine. Anyway, John, he settled on this video where Trump was talking about 1917 and everybody was, ragging on him because it's like 1918. So, John was trying to figure out why Trump kept saying 1917. And it just, I don't know, people who watch the show will see me sometimes maybe look distracted. It's because I'm constantly trying to bring up relevant material from the internet to augment whatever it is the co-host is talking about. And while John was talking about all this, my mind just went to biological warfare. And I just said, when was the first recorded incident of biological warfare? And it, brought me to this website here. This is like intel.gov. I'm pretty sure this was run by the NSA, and this talks about Anton Dilger and how he was involved in what they classify as biological sabotage, where he was mixing up all kinds of disgusting stuff, feces from different animals and sick, dead animals, mixing them together and heating it up and fermenting it and just kind of vomit and all kinds of weird stuff, and then testing it on guinea pigs, which is super interesting. I wonder if that's where we get the term guinea pig from, but they made this concoction, Anton Dilger and his brother, in a makeshift home laboratory, and then they got these Belgian agents who were going around and swabbing this thing in the nostrils of horses. The idea was the United States was sending horses to France and England to fight in World War I. And the story that's told on that website, which incidentally, that appeared in 2022. There is no intel.gov Anton Dilger website prior to, what's the month they have it there? Sometime here in 2022. So who decided to put that out? And why in 2022? Are they trying to convince us of something about influenza, misdirect us? So anyway, John, he was looking at that video from 1917. I think I have it here. Yeah. So John had identified, I don't know if he made this, I think he found it, and he was commenting on it and for weeks saying, why is Trump saying 1917, 1917? They were making fun of him, saying, oh, Trump's an idiot. He doesn't know that the pandemic happened in 1918. And we were kind of scratching our heads and wondering, why is Trump saying 1917? It doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And so that was when I started looking around and found that, biological sabotage story. And so Anton Dilger, he's an American, he's a German American, but born in America. His father was like an absolute hero. Is this the article here? Yeah, this is it. Prussian-born hero settles in the valley. Look at this, from 1963. That's interesting, isn't it? So it's talking about how Hubert Dilger, who is Anton Dilger's father, and I just found this today. I have previously read how Captain Dilger was a decorated. This was in the Civil War. So what? How could they be writing about this guy in 1963? He must have been dead. I got to look into this further, but they're talking about, the home of a hero, and this is their home there, and they had horses and everything. He was a musician and a breeder of fine stock, right? So this is a horse breeding family. They know all kinds of stuff about horses, and Anton Dilger, he went back to Germany to study to be a doctor. Apparently in the 19 teens, that's what you had to do. You had to go to Germany. So we're looking on Google Earth to try to find this guy's house, because there is, there's some articles about him and stuff, but it was difficult to actually locate on Google Earth. I meant to do a little video of this, but there's sort of a knot in Google Earth right where the house should be. And I had read that it was a white brick house. These houses here, nobody should come to any of these houses or bother any of these people. A lot of these houses look like they are not from 1917, like perhaps they've been crushed and rebuilt. But that right there is Dilger's house. Or, well, that's the plot. That doesn't look like it would be a house from 1917. And I don't know, is that a brick house under there with stucco over it? Maybe. Hard to say. But there's a lot of weird things about this. So what was Trump talking about in that video? Nothing has happened like this since 1917. He wasn't talking about the pandemic. I don't think. I think he was talking about biological warfare. Think about it, swabbing the noses. So he was successful in killing some horses, although the reports I've seen say really not that many. Now, a hypothesis that I came up with from listening to all this, and based on what John was saying, John, I believe, said, maybe this came from Jeffrey Taubenberger, because we were also simultaneously asking, why on earth would they dig up the most dangerous pandemic flu in history? And I believe the explanation that we discovered is all influenza A viruses, all genetic variants that are known, are descendant from that strain. I don't remember if it was H5N1 or H7N9. We got to talk to John about that, but That was the basic idea. I think it was Taubenberger who had discovered that, and so that started to make sense. Of course, this thing's got to start dumping garbage the second I'm talking. I couldn't imagine why scientists would want to dig up and genetically recreate the most dangerous virus ever. But if the idea is every season the flu is, mutating, what do they call that? The variants, and Fauci was saying, well, we can never quite get an effective vaccine because, what are these, dead tomatoes? Because it's always mutating. And I guess the idea was if you had, here's the Grinch, I guess if you had the original genetic thing, you put that RNA inside an mRNA vaccine. And they were talking about using the envelope from a coronavirus because, as I understand it, that is particularly sticky and really infects and gets into human cells. So their idea was to sort of use a virus as a vaccine and take out the RNA from inside a coronavirus and put in the mRNA or the again, I'm not a scientist, so I'm speaking inaccurately. Forgive me. This is supposed to be a general description for lay people, and if I am saying anything incorrect, scientists, please correct me. But the idea is basically like the envelope. Picture it like this. If I wrote a letter to somebody else and put it in an envelope addressed to you, U.S. Postal Service would bring it to your mailbox. I'm out of sidewalk here. Put it in your mailbox, you would take it, bring it into your house, open it up, and now you got a letter addressed to somebody else. Same kind of idea here. The coronavirus envelope is addressed to you, but there's a surprise inside. So that at least makes sense. I don't know if it'll work or not, but that doesn't sound psychopathic. That sounds like you're trying to make a vaccine. Now the problem is, and that also in my mind explained why John had all these charts where COVID and P&I, pneumonia and influenza, were just almost exactly the same. Almost like 90 to 98% of everybody they were checking in this thing, it looks like, from looking at the chart, they had both. And influenza was the number one comorbidity. They told us that. So how did everybody get influenza and COVID? Could it be that the influenza was inside the COVID? I don't know. But the point is, Anton Dilger, let's see, we got a lot of stuff to talk about here. How did we get the name influenza first? I've discovered that in 1918, newspapers did not really talk about influenza. So this is an article from 2019 talking about the Spanish flu. And it goes into a lot of details. So saying in Europe, influenza spread through Spain, France, Great Britain, basically all of Europe. And the Spanish flu, it got the name the Spanish flu really from the media, and Spain was pissed off about it because Spain was neutral in the First World War, and the newspapers there were not being censored. They were free to report the devastating effects of the 1918 pandemic. And so, yeah, I mean, what I'm able to surmise from reading all of this is that it almost seems like exactly what we're experiencing today, where the media is able to make up. How you doing? It's a beautiful dog. Sir, could I speak to you for just one quick second? Do you know anything about the history of this neighborhood? Do you know anything about the history of the neighborhood?
Not detail, but what
Have you ever heard of a guy named Anton Dilger? He died over 100 years ago, but he lived in this neighborhood.
No.
All right, thanks. Beautiful dog.
Bernedoodle, yeah.
What kind of dog is it?
Bernedoodle.
Whoa.
A mixture
Big.
of a Bernese mountain dog and a poodle.
It's a big boy. Whoa. Okay, we'll let him have a nice day. Sorry, man. Didn't mean to disrupt the dog. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Wow, that's an excitable dog. Okay, mix of a Burmese mountain dog and a, I don't know what. But anyway, the media, it's very important Because just like we've been deceived, that seems to be what was happening in 1918. Woodrow Wilson was the president, and he created this propaganda machine, which was, what was the guy's name? George Creel, I think. There he is. Okay, so they created this Ministry of Information to make the world safe for democracy, and it was putting restrictions on, this is the executive order right here, Committee on Public Information. What does that sound like? And, you know, just the other day in Congress, people saw my interaction with Ivan Raiklin. He's desperate to mention the name of a person who I've got an unconstitutional court order preventing me from talking about. But that person had a job very similar to this Ministry of Information. It's curious, isn't it? But the name influenza, you never heard that, apparently, before 1918. I've been looking around for information about this, and it's quite difficult to find. But here is a newspaper from 1918. This is the Decatur, Illinois Herald Review from October 1918. Spanish influenza, a new name for an old familiar disease. Simply the same old grip, right? So what does that sound like? Same symptoms as another disease, but here's a new name. So if you have, you know, fever and tiredness and coughing and congestion and vomiting and diarrhea, it could be influenza, it could be grip, or it could be Spanish flu. Pretty interesting. Sort of like what we heard, where you've got the same symptoms from COVID as you have from flu, but yet somehow it's different. It's novel. It's a new thing. And I want to find out when that Spanish flu came about, when that name came about. I mean, how much coordination did we have with the media here? Because Anton Dilger died in Spain of influenza. And the word influenza, it means influence. So, I don't know. This is a real curious array of information. I mean, I don't think we would really learn anything about this from the people who live in the current home. I can't imagine they would possibly know anything about Anton Dilger. And like I said, they probably destroyed the house and built a new one. It is very interesting, though. That truck makes so much damn noise. Anyway, I just wanted to do another video while I was here in Washington, D.C. We're learning a lot about this guy, Anton Dilger. The upshot of what I'm getting at is, and why Donald Trump would say all of that in his video, his supercut, is that it seems to me that everything that Anton Dilger was doing was the United States biological warfare against the countries in Europe. I think, I mean, we gotta sort this out and figure it out more. Now this truck is following me. Just get the hell out of here. Because you see, when you read this article, let me just go to this again. Isn't this so strange that in 1963, May 9th, 1963, we got an article about Dilger's father, and they're saying he's a hero, near superhuman bravery, etc. Why would the son of an American hero become a traitor? Doesn't make any sense. It makes a lot more sense that Anton Dilger was also working for the United States government. And I don't think he maybe intended to, I don't know what he intended to do, but maybe the flu was an accident. You know, he seemed to be doing gain of function research, taking these different diseases and trying to make them infect horses, and it wasn't anything that was going to infect a horse before. I think I forgot to mention this. So here's my, gotta get away from this damn thing. Here's my hypothesis about how this guy invented the flu. If we're told he's trying to kill the horses, But these horses are supposed to go to France and England. So if it's the United States, why would they want to kill the horses? Well, this would be that they want Germany to win. It's difficult to figure it all out. But we've heard from Dr. Judy and many, many people that humans and mammals in general, there's lots and lots of latent viruses in our bodies that are kept at bay by a healthy immune system. And when you're, if you drink too much and go out late and don't sleep and do all kinds of things that wear your immune system down or get exposed to some toxic stuff, like I remember I got shingles maybe 15, maybe more years ago. And I think it was the result. It was when I was working on my 3D camera, and I had been kind of in the office, long hours, not very good ventilation, and inhaling the fumes from a soldering iron. And I remember I got the shingles, and I was like, oh, it was like right in my rib here, and every time I would breathe, it was killing me. And I just had a very strong sense that it was somehow from the solder. Maybe inhaling toxic fumes from solder got my body weakened, got my immune system working on defending that. And so it was, maybe these latent viruses can express themselves. So if you take a lot of, duck vomit and pig shit and whatever he was mixing together and fermenting in that house, and you swab it in the inside of a horse's nose, maybe the horse's immune system is fighting all of that, and some of these latent viruses can express themselves. Remember, there's some doctor near a military base in Kansas, I think, who was the first to report Spanish flu in the U.S., and there were outbreaks near military bases. It's like they were poisoning the horses for the military. Anyway, so if this is correct, and again, a lot of the details are not yet fully fleshed out. We still need to research this a lot more and think about it a lot more. But if this is correct, that would mean that the United States created a biological weapons program in 1917. And it backfired and created a result that killed 50 million people and gave us every single strain of influenza since then. How many people have died from that? So if this were ever found out, obviously it would be devastating to the United States. And now that it's been being lied about for over 100 years, I guess they feel they need to carry that on and keep lying about it. And so if you become president and they tell you stuff like this, certainly in the context of a pandemic happening that might be related to it, maybe that's what Trump is talking about. Nothing like this has happened in over 100 years. A biological weapons program gone wrong that has blowback that makes millions of people sick. That might be what Trump was talking about. That might be why the NSA released a virtual library about Anton Dilger filled with what seemed to be lies to misdirect us away from the truth. A year ago when I first learned about this, I started calling some people who had written books about the 1918 Spanish flu. And I got to get back to that research, maybe get those guys on the show. There was one guy in particular who had written the book. It all just seemed very suspicious to me. It seemed like this idea is not 100% right, but it seemed like I'm getting pretty darn close. So that's all I really know about Anton Dilger right now, I think. But I'm going to keep talking about this. I want to try to find out some more about him. I was going to go over to his family's farm. I'm not sure that it exists anymore. It's called Greenfield Farm. And there is still a Greenfield Farm, but it's kind of far away from where his family farm was supposed to be. And now there's also a town called Greenfield. So I get the sense that maybe back in 1918, you could own a gigantic farm that now would be something like this, like a neighborhood that's been sold to a developer. So I'm not sure that the original farm, that original horse farm, still exists. And it's pretty far. It's in Virginia, so it's kind of far from here. Is that a trampoline in the backyard there? I think it is. But so I don't have time to go there today. And I just, like that guy said, I don't think people are going to know that much about this. I was going to go to the National Archives too, but each of these things kind of needs a day on its own just to be dealt with. So here's Anton Dilger's neighborhood. Doesn't look like the original house. I don't even know what I was expecting to see here. It's just interesting to come to these locations. 100 years ago, there was a guy up here doing biological research in his basement that seems to have led to the creation of the 1918 influenza pandemic. Seems to be. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please become a sponsor on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. It's the most economical way to sponsor the show, as little as $3 a month, plus a 58-cent Odyssey fee. You're going to get access to sponsor-exclusive content, the largest library of Crowdsource the Truth legacy content anywhere on the internet, helps support independent journalism, helps support efforts like this to come to Washington, D.C. and investigate stuff that nobody else is investigating. You can also sponsor on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. By the way, there's probably somebody out there who can, research this stuff, maybe know how to find the historical, like what happened to a building when it got destroyed or whatever. I don't know what it would really tell us, but I don't know. There it is, Anton Dilger's house. Thanks for watching, everybody.